Welcome back to the channel, guys. So today I want to talk about Microsoft and the Xbox One and the current rumors that in 2019 they're going to be releasing a model that no longer takes physical media. Is this a good idea? Is this a bad idea? Am I for it? Am I against it? Well, in all honesty, I'm not somebody that scrutinizes everything that Microsoft does. I do own an Xbox One. I've owned one since it came out. Have I enjoyed it? Yeah, to a degree. It's been relegated to a system that's been pushed to my kids. They use it more so than I do. I use a Nintendo Switch and a PS4. I don't consider myself a fanboy for any company. I enjoy them all, but definitely at times there's going to be preferences of what games I want to play. And it's typically exclusives and stuff like that. But the one thing I do want to say and make clear is that I'm a huge advocate for physical media. Am I against digital only? Not necessarily, but there's definitely pros and cons to both. So according to Thorot, I think that's how you say this website's name, they kind of broke the news yesterday that this is going to be happening. No drive, just straight digital on the Xbox One. It's just an extra model. It's not a whole new system. Maybe it's going to be a budget system, try to entice more people into it. And there's a lot of people who have adopted digital only. And I think that's a great thing, to be honest, for those people, not for me, because there's pros and cons to this. The biggest con in my eyes is when you go digital, and it's just, I don't care how you look at it, because it could be the same for physical as well, in a sense. I feel like there's no ownership. If I want to sell that game, if I want to trade it, if I want to let somebody borrow it, I can't do that if it's digital. The value immediately is gone as far as money goes. There's still value there. If you're playing the game and you're enjoying it, you're getting out of it what you put the money in for, so that definitely makes sense on that part. And I definitely understand, with that said, that a lot of people don't care. Not everybody wants to sell their games, trade them, or, like back in the day with NES cartridges, let your friend borrow it and stuff like that. I don't let people borrow games. I don't even know anybody who wants to, hey, let me borrow that. I don't deal with that. I haven't done that in years. But it's still just kind of, it's put me off the digital. There's so many times where something digital comes out and it's only digital, and it kind of ticks me off a little bit, because I want that physical copy of it so I can do with it as I please. Not necessarily just to put it on a shelf to look at, oh, wow, I own this. But more so just to have that physical copy that is easily transferable to another system, to sell it, to get my, as much money back out of it as I can. With digital, it's a good thing because there's unlimited copies of that game. There's so many games that are limited. Over time, Nintendo, they've done a lot of things where, cartridges for the 3DS winds up being so limited over time that the value goes up. Same thing with their other systems previously. There'll be print runs that just aren't enough to satisfy people, or maybe in the long run, people wind up discovering this game and it's no longer available. So that's an issue. Where physically, the price goes up in the collector market and the secondary market. So digital is typically always there, but not in all cases. There's certain things that have disappeared digitally. And this is just something, I understand over time we're going to have to accept this, because there's going to be a point where games go strictly digital, or the vast majority of titles are released digitally. And I'm not looking forward to that, but I understand eventually I'll have to accept it. But at the same time, it's just, man, these companies are going to be pushing for this. And this is a step I think Microsoft is taking to kind of test those waters. See how well this system sells. Nobody knows for sure what the price is going to be on this bad boy. But if the rumors are true, a lot of the rumors I've looked at, they've said maybe around $200. But you can get an Xbox One on sale typically for $200. That's how much I paid for the one my kids use. And I see them on sale a lot. $200, $220, comes bundled with the game, so on and so forth. So if this driveless system sells for $200, I don't really see the value there. Unless it has a huge drive, which I don't know that they're necessarily going to do. if they release a slimmed down, digital only system, and it's in the tail end of the system's life cycle, I would prefer to see $100, $150 price range. I don't know if that's feasible, but it would definitely make a little more sense to me than $200 or over $200. It is what it is. They also have a program that supposedly they're going to be putting into place if you're crazy enough to participate in this. And you say, you know what? I want to get this disk driveless system that's digital only, but I have a bunch of games. Let me trade this in or sell it and get the driveless version for whatever reason. Well, Microsoft's got you covered because supposedly you're going to be able to take your physical disks to whatever specific retail locations that they're going to partner with. Possibly, like this article says, Microsoft stores, but could be other places as well. Take your discs in and say, hey, I don't want this physical copy anymore that could be, traded for money at some point, or I can physically do something with this. I want a digital code that I can't do anything with but play the game, which is what games are meant to be, for, is to be played. So I understand both sides of the argument, but I just don't understand the giving up the physical for digital. For a lot of people, like I said, you get that physical copy, you could do stuff with it. You could do questionable stuff if you really wanted to. But there's some monetary value that you can get back out of that if eventually you're tired of it. Until these companies do something similar with digital where, you can give up your rights to it and get, maybe some money back so you could buy something else, that would be cool. But I don't see that being very likely. Maybe similar stuff like what Steam has done. Okay, if you bought the game within a certain time period, certain amount of gameplay, if you decide this game is crap, if it's a buggy mess, you can get a refund. That's a step in the right direction, but ultimately, once you're past that, you can't do nothing with those, those digital copies. So if Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo did something similar where you have a certain time period, that would be great, but once that time period's up, there's nothing you can do with that digital copy anymore. I know dwelling on that, hey, something physical holds value, but something digital doesn't, is going to be something that splits a lot of people, because a lot of people don't collect games for monetary value. I don't buy games because I think there's going to be a return on it. I mean, I never buy games thinking like, oh, I'm going to buy this and it's going to be worth a bunch of money. I buy games because I want to play them. So that's why on the digital side of it, I understand this might not bother a lot of people, but people who are definitely, mid-30s to 50s or whatever, who grew up with physical games, I think for us, it's going to be a harder thing to swallow in the future if it strictly goes this way. The biggest problem, and a lot of people in my community have pointed out and talked about, this is one of the negatives for them with previous consoles, is your digital games don't follow you. They just don't follow you when the next system comes out, when the successor comes out. For the most part, there's definitely exceptions to that, but your digital library of games don't follow you across platforms, successors to that system. And that is a problem. That's why a lot of people like to stick to PC gaming, because, a Steam account, you have all your games on there. Say you build a new PC or you sell your PC and wipe it clean. You buy a new PC, build a whole new one. You still got your games. They transfer over. A new Windows, operating system comes out. Your games will still work on there, most likely. But you could transfer them over. There's no issue with that. Console gaming has never been a thing where you expect everything to follow you. You would hope. Because they've done that in the past with certain systems, The Nintendo Wii played GameCube games initially, stuff like that. The Wii U played Wii games, and so on and so forth. The Switch doesn't play any of that stuff. If you downloaded games on the Wii, you're not playing them on the Switch. You would have to maintain keeping that system. Not a lot of people want to do that. So those digital games kind of lose value, especially if they're tied to an account and you want to wipe that account. If you had a Wii or a Wii U with a bunch of digital games on it, and you decided, I just want to get rid of this and move on to the Switch or whatever, you're not carrying those games over with you. And unless you wanted to leave your personal information on that system, you really couldn't tell somebody like, hey, I've got 50 games on here that comes with this system. You could, if you have no problem leaving your account on there and whatnot, and sometimes, it wouldn't matter. The games would stay unless they wanted to sign in, make their own account. But that's a problem that I see. So I'm definitely not hyped for the future of no physical. I know we've talked about this in the past, and I think with Microsoft doing this, it's a step in the direction of them testing the waters to see how well it does. I'm not bothered by what they want to do because I know ultimately it's going to happen regardless, but I think they're doing this just to kind of see at the tail end of their system's life if people adopt this. Because PlayStation, Sony and Microsoft, their new systems are going to be coming out in a couple of years. That's a given. We don't have a lot of information on that yet. But hey, these companies are going to be doing some weird stuff in the last year or two of the life cycle. I'm excited to see what direction it goes, but I just wanted to kind of talk about, the physical versus digital thing here with Microsoft, why I'm not a big fan. A lot of times as well, something digital, it'll be a certain price, and in the store it'll be on sale, but digital it's not. So that's another thing to keep into account as well. That kind of bothers me because a lot of times you can find games cheaper physical than you can digital. Sometimes it's the other way around, but not as often in my eyes as finding games on the cheap or buying them used if that's what you're into. So really do appreciate you guys stopping in, hanging out with me for a few moments of your time. I don't really talk about Microsoft and Xbox too often, but this was a topic that interested me, so I wanted to kind of discuss it a little bit. So thank you. Smash that like button, make sweet love to that notification bell, subscribe if you haven't done so already. And with that said, guys, I will catch y'all next time. Peace out, bye-bye, and boom.